1. Publishing links to help you with your books. Here are some great options for creating fantastic covers. Economy covers, https://tinyurl.com/5mhubibi. Premium covers, https://tinyurl.com/it3dav87. Here are some great options for book editing. Premium, https://shorturl.at/teachers. Here are some great options for book formatting. Economy, https://shorturl.at/junivisu. Here is a great master, your audiobook to ACX and Audible requirements. https://tinyurl.com/e2xkamna. Introduction to Book Writing. This book contains surprised hidden treasures of information that many successful authors have been using silently to surprise and overcome their book promotion expectation. This book is their success secret, now revealed here. The good news is that this book does not deal only with what can be achieved with ready-made finite marketing capital. This book contains a possibility of marketing capital at a reasonable cheap price or no cost at all. You should never judge a book, especially when people talk exceptionally great about it, from its cover. Find time to see what is inside. Book Writing Made Simple is a how-to book for aspiring authors who have already decided to write a book, and for frustrated authors who have already written and published a book, but now need that book to start selling. It is always easy for an author to write a book, but it is always hard for an author to start promoting a book, especially if the author knows nothing about marketing. Marketing is the key to book sales. You have heard the old age, books don't sell themselves. This myth must surely be erased from every author's mind. A book mainly sells itself. How, you ask? After reading this book first chapter to the last, you may not doubt my words again. 1.1. The importance of writing skills. Whether in college or graduate school, top students in all fields master one or more crucial skills, such as writing and critical thinking. Chemistry majors will have read novels, and mechanical engineers will have taken poetry courses. Business students will have polished their communication skills. Currently, most liberal arts colleges require a type of final project in which students demonstrate high-level writing skills, such as a thesis paper or essay exam question answers. Adding to the confusion is the fact that the American education system, among others, often values word counts over original and insightful thinking, writing only for the teacher, and repetition and imitation. Good writing is a key part of success in any field. Virtually every top job listing values excellent written and oral communication skills more highly than any other qualification. Advertising, public relations, journalism, grant writing, news and non-fiction writing of all kinds, teaching, and running a business all require strong writing skills. In the creative professions, such as playwriting, fiction and poetry, the written word is the primary raw material. A book-length work, though more difficult to write than a short story, is often an easier sell. Fiction sells better than almost any other type of book, and we tell writers that they must generate a full-length book in order to become legitimate authors. 1.2. Common challenges faced by authors. Even though it can be difficult, the drafting process can also be exciting because you bring life to the characters, plots, and scenes. Only after a writer's total attention is given to that process will there be a story to correct and revise. The draft is actually the most private process for a writer, because it is during the drafting process that you really get to know your characters. The draft begins the exploration of a book's landscapes, characters, personalities, and events. Once a writer has waded into the rough, choppy waters of drafting, there is no going back. Be sure you are prepared for the draft by choosing suitable techniques that complement both your style and creativity. Writing the first draft of any book can be tedious, painful, and draining, yet often rewarding. Of the four processes involved in completing a novel, imagination, writing, rewriting, and editing, the actual writing of the book, the drafting process, is one of the most common challenges faced by writers. Yet, the drafting process can be simple and rewarding when you learn how to make use of techniques that best suit your writing skills and creativity. Understanding your audience. Before writing, you must have a clear picture of your intended audience. Who are your readers? Why will they want to read your book? How will reading your book help them? If you answer honestly and accurately, you will have a reliable guide for all your writing decisions. While other books on book writing contain only a few words on audience alone, this author devotes one full chapter of questions and instructions. Not only should you already know who your readers are, but you also need to know what they want. If you do not, don't be surprised if no one reads anything you write. Refocus on your audience. After all, why would someone take the time to read anything that they don't think is written for them? Having a clear and specific picture of your audience can mean the difference between a brilliant book that no one reads and an average book that creates a sensation. Your audience guide has two parts. The first is your reader profile, which you will use to guide your writing. The second part is the industry profile, which will help you or your publisher market and distribute your book. Identifying primary, secondary, and throwaway audiences can help define gaps in the literature that you can fill. Other resources may judge your book by different criteria other than the content. Each audience you identify will have its own agenda for how they judge your book. Authors can work with booksellers to promote their books. 2.1. Identifying your target readership. The more you know your reader's needs, the more you can write for that individual rather than for a broad audience. Knowing your reader will enable you as an author to write more effectively, increasing the value of your current and future sales. Although we may start each writing project with a relatively clear protocol of who our book is going to attract, it is only after the third, fourth, or even fifth book targeted at this reader that we really start to think about who is reading what we have written. By this time, a very clear target readership has been defined and encapsulated in the author's mind for future sales success. Unfortunately, once this target readership has been defined and reiterated in the mind of the author, it becomes habitual to write solely for that typical reader, sometimes to the detriment of the book if the author fails to deliver. Always bear in mind that our core readers will move into other sectors, and the book will need to be readapted to meet the needs of new inquiries. The first question that any author needs to resolve is, who should read my book? It goes without saying that some books are designed for general reading by anyone and everyone, and are likely to interest a very wide cross-section of the population. In contrast, the majority of non-fiction books, and indeed some fiction books, are written to appeal to a very specific readership. The more that potential authors think about who needs the information they are going to include in their book, the easier it will be to identify the profile of their target readership. Of course, much has been written about target marketing in various courses and academic texts, but unfortunately little attention is given to the individual needs of authors in identifying their profile of their readers to enable them to write directly to this market. You need to be clear in your own mind who your typical reader is in terms of age, education, socioeconomic group, geographical location, special interest, etc. 2.2. Creating reader personas. Ideal readers vary based on interests, demographics, and experience. Understanding your reader personas will help you invest your time and resources into the right book topics that will attract your target audiences. Reader personas can guide you in choosing the best routes to follow. They help guide your unique voice, the images, designs, website layout and structure, the choice of language you use, the tone of your book, the content you create, and even the ways you can generate awareness and increase book sales. All your content will then resonate and connect more deeply with visitors, becoming more relevant for them. As you develop your reader personas, you'll discover the topics that interest your readers the most and are relevant to your business. With the right focus in mind, it will ensure that your book will be crafted in a way that best informs and inspires your readers regarding their needs and problems. Therefore, you should ensure that your identified challenges and goals are reflected in your book. Creating reader personas can help you orient your content strategy. By knowing who your target audience is, you'll be more able to make informed decisions about your book, such as what and how to write. Your content, angle and style will sync with your readers' expectations, making you produce more valuable writing and content as a result. You should always write with one or multiple personas in mind. A real strategy usually takes more than one persona into account. Furthermore, properly detailed personas provide direction about which books best meet your readers' needs and challenges. They also indicate where to focus your writing, what subjects to cover, and what style and methods of writing to use. Interview your readers directly using questionnaires or polls. Describe your ideal readers, including demographics, age, location, job, etc., behavior patterns, motivations, and goals. Identify your readers' problems and what they expect from your book. Collect data from your email list, Facebook page, or other channels. Segment your target audience as much as possible. Creating reader personas can help you uncover new and relevant questions. The process of building a reader persona typically involves the following steps. A reader persona is a semi-fictional or fictional representation of an ideal reader. It helps you understand your reader better and develop content that caters to their needs, values, and expectations. Both your writing and marketing efforts benefit from this knowledge. Crafting a compelling plot. We all hope for great success, but think about the themes that have done well. Harry Potter, The Hunger Games, and The Fourth Kind are examples. But of course, to dive deeper, each novel has its kernel beneath the surface. The Harry Potter novels involve the battle between good and evil. The Hunger Games operate through dystopian means, including morality, power, and inequality. The Fourth Kind is about psychiatry, but covers a paranormal subject matter, including the introduction of absolute evil and possession. While there was something additional about them that made them stand out and gain attention, it was not just the basic themes, it was the complex substance. When you create a new plot, consider what level of complexity exists beneath the surface. All compelling plots do. While compelling as an element of plot may seem open to interpretation, the truth is that it is not. Consider the number of times we have heard readers render a complaint like this one: "Nothing happened, it was so boring." Readers are drawn to plots that contain levels of motion, tension, and conflict. They do not interpret the word interesting in the traditional manner. Author Jack London, writer of The Call of the Wild, emphatically stated, "Interest means moving." This holds true even in non-fiction works. Readers are not interested in reading about the actions and thoughts of a character whose days are bland, who deals only with small stakes, or who experiences little of true substance. 3.1. Elements of a strong plot. A plot should also be thought out so that the reader is forced to be propelled through the novel. A novel should be alive, and the plot is what keeps it that way. When creating a plot, the author needs to take into consideration that a plot can be created out of moving your characters through a timeline or several different threads, and occasionally falling upon an event that moves the characters forward. When planning a novel and deciding on what events are going to occur, the plot will likely become one of the elements that need the most work. An author needs to constantly think about how every event in the novel will make the plot stronger. And he or she will need to create events that will keep the reader captivated and always reading more. These key elements will then lead into the other parts of the plot and the pacing of the novel, as well as the characters themselves. A strong plot is a novel's backbone. It is the events of a novel and the pattern in which they occur. Without a strong plot, a novel can fall apart rather quickly. It is essential that every novel have a strong and flowing plot. Throughout the different parts of a novel, the plot will need to be the driving force. This means that the majority of a novel's content should be created out of the novel's plot. It should never be flat either. The plot needs to rise and fall throughout the course of the novel. This is what will keep the story alive and keep the reader interested in what is going to happen next. 3.2. Plotting techniques and structures. The template story is altered in every story, altered to create the most memorable story possible. A story template can be conceived and executed in 1,000 different ways. All of us know the length and basic structure of our body, but within those parameters we are all unique. Each story starts with the most important element of all, an idea. This formless thought might be fleshed out in a myriad of ways. It might be a broad general notion, or a very specific plot. Any way it comes to an author, it is the genesis of a plot. Some basic methods of plot development can become almost formulaic if made too rigid. Plotting is considered to be the backbone of every story or novel. The plot is a sequence of events in the story that makes the events go forward. It is the skeleton on which a writer develops a novel. The depth of the plot is a combination of various story elements and how they are blended together. There are so many words written on this subject that it could fill a library, but at the heart of everything ever published on novel writing, writing fiction or books on how to write is the story itself. It is central to everything, and it is unique. Developing memorable characters. Your characters need to seem real and memorable enough to make the book live long after the reading. They will be revealed not just by physical description or long biographical data. Instead, they will seem three-dimensional, showing their nature as they interact with others, by their behavior and words, and by what they do. Real, rounded characters have more than just appearance and manner to explain them. They have attitudes, social skills, ethics, interests, IQ, even EQ, emotional intelligence, and are in some way different or special or unique, probably not at all times but certainly in some areas. This applies equally well if you are writing memos or business reports, stories or plays. Always take time to be sure your characters are of interest and capable of change and action, to support the overall aim and structure of your sentences and paragraphs. When writing your book, you must create characters who seem real to your readers. It does not matter whether you are writing fiction, non-fiction, a book of poems, biography, action, adventure, or romance. To stay vivid and alive in a reader's mind, characters need to have dimensions that require some careful thought and planning as you create and bring them to life. Let me explain the character technique in detail. 4.1. Character archetypes and development. Other characteristics of this myth are: the hero's journey has a form. Characters also represent qualities rational, irrational, tangible, and ideal. We've seen it before. It belongs to all of us. One of the most well-revered mythical stories of an epic hero is George Lucas's Star Wars series. The mythology of this story follows Joseph Campbell's monomyth concept of a set-in-stone mythology of an epic hero who triumphs over the darkest of foes. The epic hero usually starts as a seemingly normal person, has something great in their lineage that sets them apart, usually is not aware of what is truly in their lineage, undergoes a test of character, and then is faced with an epic battle. The hero sprouts from obscurity, does something great that marks them as someone destined to be epic, goes into the unknown and gives a piece of themselves that forever transforms them, therefore bringing immense rewards and fulfillment. At the end of the epic journey, the hero might return to the normal world, which was forever changed by their sojourn in the unknown. 4.2. Character motivations and goals. While you must assist the characters in becoming lifelike, that doesn't mean you have to tell the world their favorite color or where they went to grade school in order to make the character seem genuine. What is called for is developing each character in the novel to contain fears, motivation, and goals that your reader can identify with. Add something to the character that will allow the reader to care about them. If the reader's emotions are not engaged, the character loses value. They should want to applaud the character's successes or mourn their losses. Yes, the hero has an overall goal. One he hasn't even realized yet. But the villain must have his or her own goal, and the readers need to be aware of that goal so they understand when the antagonist is thwarted, and why, and when they succeed. Losing any significant character goal risks losing your readers. In a romance such as Carla Darcy's A Wager of Love, the characters are attempting to accomplish a goal, while every other character in the novel attempts to thwart them for their own selfish motive. Motivations are what lend life to the character. Each character portrayed must be envisioned as a person who has certain goals they yearn to accomplish. In order to add depth to the character, the author writes by revealing why the character desires what they do. This wound offers rationale behind every action made. It is the Achilles heel that needs healing, and is the means by which the antagonist or other characters may come to understand or assist in the healing process of the character. Setting and world building. It can also be as much an object of desire as a character in romance or science fiction romance. The most difficult task is to convince readers that the post-apocalyptic world in time travel romance is an authentic world. Fantasy and science fiction require that the world be more a part of the ongoing narrative. Settings are the snap-together building blocks of the world, plot, and character. A wealth of tools and concrete points help authors build their settings, and combining several of them creates a smooth flow of information that spreads over the course of the book. As with character and plot elements, settings can be created from background to the detail at any time and in any out-of-plot time. Setting and world-building sections assume that you are writing a world set in a world close enough to Earth that readers will feel at home. Space opera world-building is discussed in the plot and structure section, as it's more about plot and building an antagonist. Also, setting is where the story happens, and it happens in a story world that is tangible at some level. The level of detail can vary widely. In literary fiction, the story world is created from careful, detail-oriented observation. For mystery, you will want to set the story in a location that has a detailed, real-world impact. Genre fiction will usually be set in the real world too, but too little real world in science fiction, contemporary romance, or historical fiction is lethal. The story world doesn't take center stage, but it's important that you pull it together with enough sensory detail that the setting is tangible. 5.1. Creating vivid and believable settings. In every story, details need to fit the type of book you're writing. Action books need fast-paced and dramatic settings. Fantasy or science fiction books need a lot of imaginative but consistent setting details. Mystery and crime usually need to have a stark, grimy, or dirty feel to them. Humor needs an offbeat touch or full of exaggerated details. In every story, setting needs to do descriptions of not just the character but also of what's happening in the story. With vivid settings, you'll be able to give your reader characters in action. It's also an excellent way of keeping the story fresh and making a character more real. Every writer does it a little differently, but whatever that it is, good authors all provide strong and vivid descriptions of their story's details. Settings come alive when they contain vivid details that your readers can imagine. Do you need a shooting to galvanize tension in your story? If so, you need to explain who the good guys and bad guys are, how they look, where they are, what time it is, what the weather is like, how they got on the scene, and what has brought up to this climactic moment. Readers want to know how these details matter, so in every story, these details need to fit the plot and reveal something about the characters who populate the book. Whether you're writing a burning castle, a lonely forest, or a windswept clifftop, describe these settings so the reader won't need much imagination to see them. Add unexpected elements like the sound of a chainsaw, the smell of butterly, or the sound of a far-off train. Every writer does it differently, but the important part isn't how, it's that you do it. 5.2. Building fantasy or sci-fi worlds. There are a few secrets in the world of writing, the creative life that no one tells you. One is the fact that in an artistic career, the combined disasters of heartbreaks, what-ifs and little voice demons within contribute far more to an unfinished work portfolio than fairy tale notions of not enough time and the gatekeepers. Speaking of fairy tale notions, it's a common misconception that fantasy sci-fi authors spring bridges, dragons, alternate realities, and magic objects from sheer genius. The truth is that, like every other task, the seemingly genius world building can be compartmentalized into layers, with each requiring its own set of techniques and considerations before expectation meets created. Even with some of these layers parts formula, writing fantasy or sci-fi is always a new and complex endeavor because no worlds or novels are the same. Writing engaging dialogue. Each character should have a distinctly unique voice. Imagine having the novel as a play, and then think how you would tell the players apart. For people, we do this visually. Fat costume, sword, crown, etc. But in dialogue, there have to be other cues so that the reader doesn't get confused. One character might be verbose, deliberately using long words and complex sentences, while another may use simple short sentences or even be dumb. Another might have an accent or use your instead of your. They may have some favorite phrase. There has to be something about the way each character speaks that makes them different, or the reader won't be able to tell who is talking. Dialogue can be a great way to reveal character. Good dialogue can add tension, reveal plot and emotions, and quicken pacing in your novel. In fact, not having dialogue in a novel can seem stilted and formal. In a play, you have nothing but dialogue. The playwright cannot use any narration or explanation. While in a novel, the author can convey a lot of information to the reader through the use of the narrative, through narration. A play has just dialogue, which means dialogue in plays has a lot of heavy lifting to do. The words the characters say must engage the readers and move the story along. 6.1. Character voice and speech patterns. Are your character dialogue sections all starting to sound the same? If you answered yes, then it could be a sign that you are not distinguishing the voice of your character. The task of creating unique and amazing character voices might sound a little bit overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. It only happens on its own due to a little bit of intentional thinking about your character, and a lot more intentional phrasing. Here are the steps to make your character voice unique and real. The character's education and intelligence. The character's past and home region. The type of childhood. The character's plans for the future. The character's parents and siblings. The voice of your character is the style of language and opinions the character uses in their dialogue and internal thoughts. Character voice is how they say something and the language they choose. Speech patterns are the individual quirks and mannerisms of what they say. The combination of these two is your character voice, and is what makes them unique. A character's voice will be based on a combination of elements relevant to the overall personality of the character, including 6.2. Pacing and formatting dialogue. Pacing and formatting dialogue can make or break the reader's interest in a scene. A frequent chapter layout of large block paragraphs will put a reader to sleep. When the author needs to narrow the pace of the passage, it's an excellent idea to use smaller paragraphs to quicken interest and tension. If narrative paragraphs run similarly long, then the scene slows down for the reader. The reason is that these paragraphs force the eye to focus on a few narrow spots, reducing the reader's pace to that of the prose. Writers can use the opening and closing of a paragraph based on pacing skill. Set the pace of dialogue while altering voice or character persona using short and long paragraphs. Short sentences increase the speed of the scene and the tension, or add stress to the engaged character. Small paragraphs generate an impressive voice with tension sentences, while a dash between people can upraise or indicate contrasting thoughts from the speaker. Nothing drives a story better than the characters in a story. The strongest writing and conflict resolution sessions are powered by character actions and dialogue. Dialogue makes the reader feel like he has a front row seat to a conversation, rather than a further onlooker's view. Mastering point of view. If a happily ever after doesn't test the psychological mettle of your characters, you won't have a satisfying book or a happy ending. Great characters who are real people on the page have a past, a wide range of emotions and complex motivation. The first step to giving your character a believable past, real emotions and complex motivation is to explore who your character is, what he wants, and what's been preventing him from getting it. These things combine to determine what's going to happen in your novel. The more you know about your viewpoint character, the stronger your writing will be. A happily ever after is only possible because of the unique makeup of your point of view characters. The thing that could never happen is the thing that does happen, not because you wanted a romantic ending or a heart-stopping thriller, but because of the unique makeup of the people in it. Let's begin. Here are 3 tips for crafting viewpoint characters who will attract readers from page 1 and keep them spellbound until the end. 7.1. Types of point of view. Items may be hidden until needed, exactly as they are in any normal single viewpoint narrative. In one case, each character has free will, while others look on and accept momentarily whatever the active agent causes to happen in their own neighborhood. There are essentially 7 types of point of view. First person is the actor's own viewpoint. Is anything to the right or left, poorly or accurately in itself, from a prone or supine posture on the living room floor, is all that the private sells or gives he encounters on its way in, and is the voice of its speech, while facing forward, so as to always see stars in the middle of the night, even through a 2nd or 6th ceiling. In addition to deciding upon the question of who tells the story, the author must also decide which viewpoint is best, causing each scene to appear in one page after another as he now sees it. The term point of view is sometimes abbreviated as SIM, with first person being SIM 1 and third person being SIM 3. A red apple passing down the row may be covered, first when it is well to the left as seen by the first knowing person, then instantly when well to the right as seen by that person for the second time, and then when finally seen by another, under types of point of view. 7.2. Choosing the right POV for your story. The perspective from which a short story or novel is told determines the author's angle or point of view. The role of the author is to reach a given distance comfortably from inside the character's head and express their thoughts, emotions, actions, and reactions to whatever happens around them. Different readers prefer different points of view, POVs. For some, first person is too subjective. For others, it's the irresistible pull of, I'm telling the story from inside this character's head. Third person limited offers more freedom than first person but often functions like first person. Second person tends to be more challenging for some readers because it calls for more reader involvement, creating the feeling that the author is bossing them around. As for third person omniscient, the argument goes, just because the narrator knows everything, doesn't mean the author must include everything. The omniscient point of view is a viewpoint where mistakes often occur. When writing in an omniscient point of view, you tell the story as an all-knowing narrator. You tell the thoughts and actions of all of your characters. Some beginning authors may believe they are writing in third person limited, with the use of complete omniscience. For an inexperienced author, head hopping is a common problem. Head hopping is a move from the POV of one character to the POV of another, within a single phrase, sentence, or paragraph, violating the principle of only using one character's POV per chapter or per scene. It contains a tendency to tell rather than show, and affects the pacing of your work. Choosing a point of view, POV, is confusing for authors writing their first novel, and even seasoned writers are interested in experimenting with it. Point of view is the method that writers use to tell their story. The choice of perspective in which you write has far-reaching effects. When contemplating which one to use, it's important to understand the differences. Editing and revising your work, if it's helpful, write a one-sentence summary that encompasses the aim of your book. Consider the jacket flap copy, or the book's potential index headings. Assume that your reader or potential buyer is taking only a minute to explore the book's content in a store. What are the top 3 or 4 points, headings or areas of concern that the manuscript covers? While these may not be chapter headings actually, it's often advisable to engage in an exercise like this by thinking of the reader's needs, concerns or topics, and arranging the manuscript's content to smoothly address those concerns, with chapter headings designed to enhance access to that topical discussion. After a time away from your manuscript, you'll want to revisit it with fresh eyes and plan for revising and editing. Once you're past the excitement of completing a writing project, you can focus on these paramount concerns. Begin by considering larger structure and content issues. Does the finished work fulfill the requirement or vision outlined in your proposal, your outline, or your roadmap? If there was no roadmap or guide to help you produce the completed manuscript, your first concern should be identifying what the manuscript is really about. The more narrow and thematic the focus, the better. The more an editor or a reader can grab onto that thread and hold on, the better. Here are some great options for book editing. Economy, Premium 8.1. Self-editing techniques. Step away from your manuscript for a day or two. When you go back to read or reread a particular article, pretend you are the reader, because you want to do all you can to notice exactly how readers will experience your content, both emotionally and intellectually. Don't read for evaluations. Only readers' responses count. Take note of your reactions and write them down. Give yourself whatever time you need to ensure each word is the correct word, and each punctuation connects cohesively at every level. If you don't listen to your team and you're just rushing through vowels, adverbs and commas to finalize your work, you will most likely leave the sticky parts unexamined. Make sure the early editing process is about listening. Keep your ears wide open. Where you get stuck, your readers will get stuck. Fix those sticky spots. Editing is a painstaking process. However, tackling it systematically improves a writer's style, voice, and ability. Being an author, editor, agent, and publisher, I've learned through experience a unique way of self-editing that I share with clients to refine and polish their masterpieces. Take your time and take breaks. Editing is an energy-sapping activity. Self-editing your own work is difficult. That's why an impartial editor performs editing tasks. However, a handful of simple tricks can help you approach your own copy with a fresh eye, if you are a do-it-yourself type of person. 8.2. Seeking feedback and professional editing services. Once you have worked with an editor, it's a good idea to use a proofreader to review your book. Grammarly is a great online program that can help you make changes to your manuscript. Because Grammarly is a computer program, it may miss a few things, but it's a useful tool to use while you polish your rewritten story. When your book is structurally sound, you will need to hire a professional editor to perform a full developmental edit. If money is tight, consider hiring a professional to edit the first few chapters of your book. You should also consider investing in professional editing the first chapter of your book to ensure that you have your reader's attention. A professional editor will line edit your manuscript with a focus on grammar and punctuation. They will also check for common writing mistakes to ensure that your book tells an engaging story. An editor's job is not to write your book. Rather, they will offer suggestions to help you write the best story possible for your reader. Be open to their suggestions and listen to their advice. Good editors will cost money, but they will help you to create the best book you can write. To improve your book, you will need to seek feedback from others. Find reading groups interested in your genre and offer to pitch your book for their feedback. There are also online reading groups that will offer feedback in exchange for your feedback. Friends and family will also be able to offer their feedback to help you improve your book. Navigating the publishing process. Writing your book. Get started. Choose your topic and set reasonable goals. Getting past the "I can't write" syndrome. What can you write about? Write your book. Preparing your manuscript. When you're done writing. Navigating the publishing process. Proof your work. What is desktop publishing? What will it cost to print? What is a book smart author? Manufacturing your book. Decisions. Get to know your printer. The big moment. Publishing issues. ISBN copy and license information. The fear of the unknown. Time to take charge. Book writing made simple. Where do I go from here? It's time to promote your book. Now that your book is written, it's time to take off another writer's hat, put on your businessperson's cap, and get down to the business of publishing your book. The publishing process begins with proofreading and ends with distribution. Along the way, you'll need to locate a book printer, deal with publishing issues, and get your book into the hands of your readers. Here's how. 9.1. Traditional versus self-publishing. Authors are in full control. They determine the fate of the script and select the format, cover, and style. It speeds up the production process and has the book out in a matter of months. Authors hold the highest percentage of royalties, about 40% to 70% of the asking price for digitally produced books, and 20% for print books. An online existence is leveraged to promote book sales, with authors who successfully engage in group organizing produce the most acceptable sales figures. Printing is accomplished with pod and other venues for short runs. Writing language is presented. The author is a self-published author. Even if the author makes purchases via a pod transaction, the books are saved, distributed, and sent to the web vendors. In contrast to traditional or e-commerce editors, self-published authors compensate for the work. Self-publishing is for somebody who truly appreciates the features of publication, such as full authority over the text and being in charge of the book's earnings. It is slow, often taking 2 to 3 years to reach the book. Cash advances have averaged about $2,000 and often do not provide author music allowances, reviews, or trade shows. Titles are folded and stores stop sales as well. Little or no control over the commercial aspects of the book. The publishers bear the cost and logistics of printing and distribution to vendors and web distributors. It is handled. Authors are more likely to see their book in store windows and publicized. Published authors are more likely to publish their own work and are referred to agents by publishers. Subsidized advertising costs, remastered money for products, the input of an experienced editor. Authors with traditionally published books are paid for the rights to print, distribute, and sell printed books. The publisher has final approval for the written work, or may request coursework or major rewrites before the book is published. The editor takes over most of the professional composition and rewriting tasks. The traditional publishing process is cost-free for authors. 9.2. Query letters and book proposals. Your goal is quite simple, to pique the interest of the editor or agent. Your letter is your first impression. Perform a major overhaul on your query letter if you get negative feedback. Recently, I removed a chapter summary from a long query letter, just left a paragraph about the book. That seemed to capture the editor's interest. Many of the successful writers I've spoken to recommend sending only the query letter initially, while others say to send the proposal or manuscript, depending upon the guidelines for that particular agent or publisher. Your task is not to make the sale, but to generate enough interest to get them to look further into your work. Have you ever gone on a job interview? Most people have felt the tension of answering the questions of a stony-faced interviewer while being prodded by unseen telepathic fingers to say something brilliant and meaningful. It's a serious process because the interviewer is trying to boil down large stacks of resumes to a single person. Submitting a query letter or book proposal is similar to a private job interview. You are privy to a selection process. It can be stressful because you may only have one chance to make your case. The plus is that you get to choose who will see your query letter. Building an author platform. Before now, the extent of most authors' platforms did not have much of an effect on the success of our books. A small crowd that knew you already has not yet made the difference between life and death for a book's sales. The celebrated discovery of a book often means that it is new to each reader. That changed with the rise of blogging and search engines, and the decline of traditional book PR. While there are still bestseller lists, they are much less effective at creating what we are accustomed to call a bestseller, a mass-market hit. The days when PR could produce sure sales at levels that would make a book profitable on a large scale are past. We are pleased, indeed lucky, if PR simply causes our book to break even. Of course, some authors like Patterson are famous enough that their PR machine continues to erupt prodigiously. But our society is not making anywhere near as many writers that famous. Practically everyone planning on putting a book out in today's world needs an author's platform. There is no mystery to it. It is our stage, the location where we stand, the soapbox where we voice our opinions. The platform is where we stand to be recognized and heard. We should be clear, however, that most authors already have a platform. We are already known by a set of people. Our platform centers on that group. You can have other people on your platform, but sharing your own crowd with a minimum of other authors is important. Your readers can say that they already knew you when. Actually sharing your platform with someone with a huge, non-overlapping crowd is one of the big benefits of collaborating with a major, established contributor. For example, for the 451 book, the CEO has a corner of his website for the book, which is terrific, and adds a lot to the book's likelihood of succeeding in the corporate institutional market. 10.1. Creating a strong online presence. Your website should focus primarily on getting visitors to sign up for your newsletter. This means that in addition to information about your books, excerpts, book trailers, etc., your main focus should be on capturing those readers and adding them to your database using a newsletter sign-up form and some opt-in incentive. The concept of opt-in incentive is simply giving visitors something of value in return for persuading them to sign up for your mailing list. The age of generic websites is slowly fading. Your website's key responsibility is to build and control your own proprietary database of readers who have come to the site themselves because they want to learn more about you. They should be able to opt in or out of any of your lists, free newsletter or book purchase lists. Once you have them on your list, it is creating the content for your email blast and then hitting the send button. If you've done a great job, you can expect to see your sales soar in as little as 24 to 72 hours. The demise of spam popularity has helped to make e-newsletters much more welcome in your customers' email boxes. Creating a strong online presence is the best way to generate an interest in your books. This can be done by promoting your own professional website, turning your passion into effective blogging, and using some of the newer Web 2.0 tools such as Facebook and Twitter to create relationships and fast promotion of your newest writing adventures. There is a ton of information available online to help you create an author website, so I'm not going to get into how to set one up. I do want to advise you that if you do not already have one, it is time to look into it. Your website is the primary crucial location for readers to find out about you and your books. So if setting up a website isn't for you, this won't bode well for your book sales. 10.2. Engaging with readers and building a fan base. What's wonderful about creating a fan base is that they generate word of mouth and help promote your future books. The chances of being successful in self-publishing are so much higher if you have a group of people who are following you and wanting to hear about your books. With your following in place, you are far more likely to be able to afford the tools that will take your books to the next level in terms of discoverability, as well as being able to invest in professional covers and editing. You are not aiming for tens of thousands of followers, but a few hundred dedicated fans who can rapidly propel your book to the top of the sales charts. In the last chapter, we looked at various different ways of interacting with your readers. In this chapter, we are going to look at some techniques for engaging with readers and building a loyal fan base. These techniques are also fantastic because they can be implemented as a part of your writing and marketing methods. Once your backlist starts building, you will have a core fan base who already eagerly await your next releases. Getting your book written and published is only half the battle. In order for authors to be successful, they must engage with their readers. By connecting with readers, you create a loyal and supportive following. They will be the ones giving your new books the initial sales boost. Without this, the chances of building a dedicated fan base are slim indeed. Marketing and promoting your book. In recent years, many authors have adopted a method often used in traditional bookstores, giving the book away for a certain period of time. Desirability does not depend on price alone. The more people who read your book, the more people will start talking about the valuable information contained in it. You still remain the author, regardless of the number of copies given away. All of these can work for any new or existing book in print at the corner bookstore, on the shelves of the library, or on the internet. The techniques used for your book are the same. The promotional packages used may differ, but the ultimate goal is always the same. Your writing, i.e. the text of your script, is the primary focus. But you must also pay attention to the usage of illustrations, pictures, drawings and tables, and document enhancement techniques that increase the appeal and utility of your book. It would be amiss to fail to mention marketing and promotion techniques that help you to sell your book and maximize the returns of your effort. 11.1. Book Launch Strategies. 4. Take a first copy to the translation department. Smiling for the camera, or at least bringing in a cake, can sometimes lead to a feature on the company intranet or other company-wide email of the non-translating colleagues. 3. Highlight any foreign reviews in your newsletter, see Section 6. Email the publisher's selling kit to company managers for each country. Send an email newsletter to all your friends, family members and business contacts, including associates at UPC. Capture their interest by giving them a sneak preview of some highlights from the book. It's been a long time coming, but your book is about to be published. The end of the editing process is clearly in sight. So, what are the best ways to publicize your book launch? Here are a few strategies worth considering. 11.2. Social media marketing tips. Develop an invisible author image by building and using marketing momentum for your book with these handy tips. 1. Set up a blog to use for your platform as an author. Reach out to people with your topical writing skills to get them to go to your blog. 2. Utilize various websites to spread the word via interviews and book cover options. 3. Create This Is Me interviews to let readers get to know you. Post these interviews on your blog for your readers. 4. Use available free print copies of your books to generate interest and reviews. 5. Join Facebook, create an author page and actively keep readers informed. 6. Use Twitter and Goodreads to promote your book. Others are Instagram, Wattpad, and your own website. 7. Participate in a book signing session using your business cards, bookmarks, or postcards with the book cover of your novel. Help attract people with banners and posters that spotlight your book cover. Discuss how to market a book and stay within a budget. Emphasis is placed on setting up a blog, using social media including Facebook, Twitter, and Goodreads, among others, and websites with book cover contests and free print book giveaways. Different methods of squeezing a picture to make banners and sidebars for book covers are presented. Tips for speaking about a book in an interview are discussed. Book signings can be successful, and methods of planning and conducting a signing are examined. Use of business cards, bookmarks, and postcards are detailed. Maintaining motivation and overcoming writer's block. Are you afraid of failing? Walter Bagehot once observed that the greatest pleasure of writing is not what it's about, but the music the words make. All authors suffer from this simple fear. Novelists wonder if anybody will really want to read about their characters, or maybe nobody will care how the book ends. Professional book writers may write business plans, resumes, and speeches, but shun writing about what they really know. Politicians allow a ghostwriter to compose a book. Famous people use their notoriety to fake authorship to get published. They fear critics who will point fingers at them and accuse them of having nothing important to say. They fear critics from a publisher, a news reviewer, or a high school chum, even though they may be perfectly capable of writing. It is easy to find ways to escape accomplishing the task, and hard to find reasons to complete the task. Every aspiring author hits the same block at some point during the writing process. All authors make excuses not to write, and achieving greatness, maintaining motivation, is the giant leap over this obstacle. The most important concept for any author to remember is that writing is a task of making progress. It is a task where something is being achieved when it appears that nothing is being done. 12.1. Setting realistic writing goals. Perhaps the most important advice I can give with regard to setting realistic writing goals is just this: plan ahead. You need to decide exactly how much time you can spend writing on any given day, and create a writing schedule. Here are a few examples of actual daily writing times for different writing goals. You can set more modest or even more aggressive writing goals, but keep in mind some type of balance of work and family life. After all, you can only write desperately alone so often. Most new authors, and even a few experienced ones, want to write a book as quickly as possible, ideally in less than 3 months. The problem is this desire for speed leaves them with far more verbal trash than treasure. Writing a 50,000 to 100,000 word book isn't easy. It takes time and effort. To make the process manageable, you've got to create realistic writing goals. One of the most important steps in becoming a successful author is learning how to set realistic writing goals and then actually meet them. The first part is easy. The second part not quite so easy. 12.2. Techniques for breaking through creative blocks. Writer's block is a nearly universal rite of passage for a new, aspiring author. As the stress of an assignment builds, either the experienced professional or novice writer will start having days when they just do not have any interesting or meaningful concepts to put onto the paper. The author will end up staring at a blinking cursor or an empty sheet of paper, and the clock will just keep on ticking. To help eradicate writer's block and to speed up their writing, begin to just write. Get something down on paper as quickly as possible. Doing this often helps the mind get over throwing up that initial roadblock. Try free-form brainstorming, don't bother with grammar or structure at this time. Once there is something tangible to work with, the author can whittle it down or play jigsaw puzzles with the words. When the tunnel of writing runs into a brick wall, it can really slow down an author's progress. There's nothing worse than finally getting a nice chunk of time off, sitting down and nothing. It's a terrible disappointment when the ideas and words won't come. This is writer's block, and it is a common occurrence for anyone with the desire to create. Here are a few guidelines on breaking writer's block. Before trying these helpful tips, it is good to try something to put the writer into that semi-awake state, so to wake up the creative subconscious mind. Try meditating, yoga, or any form of deep relaxation. Then the author's mind will be open to the more inventive side, where ideas are often born. Conclusion and further resources. Many aspiring authors driven by visions of fame think that writing a book is a simple matter of buying a new computer and reading the manuals. It is true that a combination of good planning and writing skills will get a book written, but not necessarily written well. Good writing requires self-awareness, the desire to develop your knowledge and abilities, and the development of appropriate skills. All three of these requirements will help to anchor your book in an unfamiliar and demanding world. By sharing your experience, insights, or instructions with your readers, you can enrich them in an empowering way. Your efforts and those of attentive and sympathetic editors should create a book that is as powerful and convincing as it can be. With the application of coaching and some persistence, you can develop and use your writing skills by taking a small step at a time until your book and your discipline become genuine aids to your growth and well-being. Good books serve their authors as well as their readers. All the best. In this guide, we propose that you focus on your book as an aid to expressing the distinctive song you have been given to sing. Writing should be more than a future investment or a present income generator, although it can be these things. Writing, we argue, is really about revealing the views, knowledge, and stories that make you unique. We focus on writing the book, and note that the preparation, marketing, and publishing steps that surround this are also important expressions of self-awareness and self-discipline. They are important practical exercises that are defined by your unique understanding, needs, and style. We conclude by sharing 10 valuable resources that will assist you in making your next book as successful as it can be. 13.1. Recap of key techniques and strategies. Deciding what your one key idea is, and then expressing it as simply and clearly as possible. Murder your darlings. Be ruthless in eliminating repetitions and simplifying what you're doing. There's an interesting link with non-fiction writing and what a lot of interviewers are interested in. What I tend to find most interesting isn't lots of detail about a few points. These are usually pretty obvious, or you can pick them up later. Instead, I'm generally much more interested in what the person I'm interviewing believes is most important. I then probe into this. If you can apply this to talks, posters, papers, and grant applications as well as your own thinking, it might make things simpler for you. After all, most of us are very good at talking about what we believe to be true. It's just that we sometimes don't realize what this is. In this section, a large number of techniques and strategies for making writing simpler were discussed. The techniques covered planning, drafting, and polishing, and it was felt that something here will help many different types of writers. This was suggested by the fact that the techniques were based on industrial methods for making complex activities more manageable. 13.2. Recommended books and online courses. If a writing class would enable you to focus and complete your book, check out these authors who offer classes. Holly Hughes, the Greater Good Writing School, and Suzanne Dunlap all offer a variety of interesting courses. Holly Hughes has teaching tools to help you integrate writing into a busy lifestyle. NaNoWriMo classes are held in November for creating a 50,000-word novel. Natasha Lekic runs a series of courses at the Writing Academy Commercial. Emily Rodmell offers a range of courses. Authority Pub Academy teaches Palladian craft and publishing business success. Note that Sarah Crawford and Sock Puppets for Literary Criticism do things differently. The same is true of Darcy Patterson and Christian feminist online writing classes from the Micah Group. Sumner M. Davenport is the CEO of a publishing consulting company. I recommend the following books: Stephen King's On Writing, a memoir of the craft, part memoir. This book is filled with personal experiences and writing advice from this bestseller. Elizabeth Lyon's A Writer's Guide to Fiction. This in-depth approach appears to be for new writers and seasoned professionals. Natalie Goldberg's Writing Down the Bones, Freeing the Writer Within. True to its title, it has a wild approach. Anne Lamott's Bird by Bird. Based upon her advice to fellow writers, it covers all the challenges a writer might meet. Lisa Cron's Wired for Story is a unique offering, as it tells how to employ brain science to incorporate storytelling successes. Here, I share some recommended reading, and then some online courses, but please remember that while courses are powerful and reviews offer just-in-time learning, the writing process itself is at the heart of producing a great product. A book may be a mentor, but discipline, effort, and time have to bring the excellent product to serve throngs of grateful readers. Publishing links to help you with your books. Here are some great options for creating fantastic covers. Economy covers, https://tinyurl.com/5mhubibi. Premium covers, https://tinyurl.com/it3dav87. Here are some great options for book editing. Premium, https://shorturl.at/teachers. Here are some great options for book formatting. Economy, https://shorturl.at/junivisu. Here is a great master, your audiobook to ACX and Audible requirements. https://tinyurl.com/e2xkamda.